So I wanted to be white. This statement has plagued me since I was a kid, and it has been the major decision maker in my life. Now, I grew up very differently than most kids. My mom was from San Luis Potosí, Mexico, and my dad is from Miami, Florida. And most kids that you know that come from Latin descent tend to be kids that have connections to that native country. And I didn't have that. And because of this, I fell into two different categories. There was the Chicana side, and there was the Mexican-American side. So I struggled to figure out what I really belonged to. And so the Chicana side, this is defined as someone that is from Mexican descent, but has been here for several generations. And my family has recently moved here. So I struggled to really find this balance. And most of the time when people that are identified as Chicanos, they tend to be from places like South Central LA where they have a big community. And I grew up here in Americus, Georgia, and I didn't have that. And then I had the Mexican-American side, where these individuals are defined as individuals from Mexican descent, but also they have connections to familiar ties in Mexico. And again, despite having that connection to Mexico, I didn't have that. I had family in Mexico, and I felt so foreign to the point that I referred to my maternal grandmother as my mom's mom. And it wasn't because I felt so foreign or disconnected from her, was because I just didn't feel like this was the right thing to call her. And this wasn't because I had hard feelings towards her, but it was just foreign. And not along with the fact that I couldn't really understand my grandmother, I couldn't understand my cousins. Because I was born and I was raised here in the United States, and they would constantly hold this above my head at the fact that I am privileged to be born here. And I am. But at a certain point, this starts to affect you as a kid. And so as I grew up, I struggled really hard to find this balance. And I know I wasn't the only one to figure out that they had these issues. There's a very famous person. She is known as the Queen of Tejano music. She is an icon to our community. In her biopic, she made this quote, and this individual is named Selena Quintanilla. Y'all might know her. And it quotes, and it goes by, "We got to prove to the Mexicans how Mexican we are. We got to prove to the Americans how American we are. We got to be more Mexican than the Mexicans and more American than the Americans." It's exhausting. Man, no one knows how hard it is to be Mexican American. And I struggled so hard as a kid to figure out this balance between them. And as I grew older, I started to realize maybe there's other people like me that felt that they belonged to something else. And I soon started to grow, and I figured out maybe if I was white, I wouldn't have to go through this. And so I got older, and you know, when most people think of Mexicans, they tend to think of the stereotypes that follow us. So the pregnancy, the drugs, the gangs, the cartels, all of this. And I wasn't an exception to this despite being so young. And as I grew older, I started to realize maybe I have to work 10 times harder than someone else. And I would constantly compare myself to someone else. And this is defined as imposter syndrome. And I have not grown out of this, and I continue to suffer from this. And in the past semester, it hit the hardest, to the point that I was hospitalized from overworking myself. And I have never been proud about my accomplishments here at GSW, despite doing so much. And not only did I feel like a token at this school, I felt that if I didn't do my part, then no one else was gonna do it. So someone had to do it. And so as I got older, I started to realize that maybe if I were white, it would have been different. Would I have to deal with this? Would I have these constant stereotypes following me? And so growing up, I realized maybe I should start separating myself from what I should be. I should be able to embrace my culture, and I wasn't able to do that. And as I got older, there were several instances in my life that caused me to feel that I wanted to be white. And the first one is body image. Society constantly compared me to skinny, blonde, white girls, and I wasn't that. I was a dark, hairy girl from Americus, Georgia. And it was hard. And I vividly remember in middle school, there was a girl named Taylor, and I will always remember her, that she would constantly tell me to shave because body hair here in this society is not welcome. And because I was young, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and she would constantly compare her arm to mine and say, one is ugly, one isn't, which one is it? You tell me. So that same day that that comment was made, I went home and I shaved everything, my arms and my legs, leaving massive cuts because I didn't know what I was doing. And because my parents have never taught me about these kind of things, I didn't know exactly what to do. Not only did I struggle with body image issues, I felt very disconnected from my family, and one of the biggest things that I regret to this day. On December 12, 2017, my only sibling was diagnosed with leukemia and brain swelling. And as I had to translate to my own mother that my sister had leukemia, I was being interrogated by the police at the same time, right outside of her room, because they assumed that my family did something to her. I was 17 at the time. I didn't really know exactly how to comfort my mom. My dad is in Florida working. And so I had to confront him and tell him, my sister was never physically abused. And he insisted that we did something to her. And I was 17. And then shortly afterwards, my mother's legal status came into question. And keep in mind, my mother's a resident in this country. And so because of this experience, I slowly started to realize maybe if I was white, it wouldn't have happened to me. But then I also realized that if I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't be here where I am right now. And as this followed me and I had internal conflicts within myself, I refused one of the biggest things in my culture that most girls tend to be so excited about. This was a quinceañera. I didn't have one because I have distanced myself so much from my community that I didn't have friends. And I didn't want to tell my parents, I don't have any friends, so I can't have damas and chambelanes, because if I told them, they would force someone to do it. And I was so embarrassed. And till this day, I am 21 years old now, and I regret it because I have never been able to experience my culture like other girls tend to do. And it's hurtful. But as I got older, I came to GSW, and I found people that look similar to me and have been able to tell me that I should embrace and be myself. And I thank people like Vanessa and Concepcion that got me here where I am today. Because if it wasn't for them, I don't know exactly where I would be. And as I got older and I stayed here at GSW, and I only have a few more weeks left, I realized that maybe there are other girls like me out there that struggle through this. And maybe I need to be that person to help them out. Because if I didn't have Vanessa and Concepcion, I really don't know where I would be. But I would say to the Taylors out there that have been pressured by society to tell other people that they look differently and to change the way they are, I am so sorry that society made you think that way. And to the girls that are being pressured by the Taylors, I hope you realize that you should be happy to embrace your heritage and you should be happy to be yourself and be that unapologetically you and embrace yourself. Thank you.